Hello and welcome to the Modern Super League. It's Tuesday. You know what that means. We get to hang out and watch some Magic. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. I'm going to be your host for the evening. And with me for at least the beginning part of the day, it's Patrick Dickmann. Patrick, welcome.
Hey, how are you? Nice to be here.
I'm good.
To be here.
Good morning. I know it's late at night for you in your home in Germany, but we certainly appreciate you staying up late and hanging out with us to watch some and play some Magic.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I got the last week off, and also playing the first one wasn't as bad as I expected. Like, when I got into this, I was kind of worried that I might be too tired, but after all, it was quite okay. My sleep schedule is messed up anyway, so it was okay.
You and me both. And I know you've got a big cup of tea with you, so you're prepared. There it is. All right, so we've got a lot of action lined up tonight here on the Modern Super League. We're going to be watching 4, maybe 5 matches. We're going to be crowning a champion of the Modern Super League. We're going to see who's going to fill out that last slot in the Super League Championship that's going to be coming up. So we've got a whole lot of stuff to cover. First thing, though, I wanted to actually chat with you about, Patrick, was the recent ban and restricted announcement that Wizards put out. And we had, well, some kind of interesting things shaken up in some of the older formats. Legacy had Dig Through Time and Black Vice taken out. What did you think about that?
Well, at first I gotta say that I don't really get to play both formats a lot. Like, I mean, sure. I looked into Legacy a little bit for GP Lille, and given from my experience there, I think it was a good choice to ban Dig Through Time, because it's just like a really restrictive card in the way that like just pushes a lot of like basically all non-blue decks out of the format, because they just can't keep up with the reload ability, because usually like as soon as you get to cast the first Dig Through Time, you also get to cast the second one, and you'll just take over the game from there. And I have no experience playing with Black Vice, so I can't say anything about that. Like, in my opinion, it doesn't look too powerful, so it was probably right to unban it.
That was kind of the general vibe I got from people when they saw that it came off of the list, was that Black Vice was maybe something that was good in the past, but these days wouldn't quite be as good as it is now. So time will tell. You know, we'll have to see. But but if you want to play a Black Vice deck, you're back. You're back in action. Now, Vintage. This one's really interesting because, you know, a lot of people watching, of course, are fans of the Vintage Super League as well. That also feeds into the Super League Championship that we're building up towards here. And there were some shakeups in Vintage as well, as we saw Dig Through Time and Chalice of the Void both put on the restricted list. What did you make of that, Patrick?
Well, I play even less Vintage than Legacy, to be fair, but I mean, it kind of makes sense, because like pretty much all of the blue card selection is restricted in Vintage, I guess, because they like, I guess you just want to like make blue less powerful, because otherwise everyone would be playing it. And I also like, that is also just something that I heard of, is that like Chalice, on like if you were on the play and you were playing like a restrictive artifact deck with Mishra's Workshop, you'd usually just like build up a huge board space, play all your Moxen, and then play Chalice for 0, so that your opponent can't respond with his Moxen and pretty much end the game on turn 1 because you were on the play. And I guess they just wanted to push this out of the format.
Yeah, it sounds like you play a little bit more than you than you let on. And Dig Through Time also in the restricted list, probably for similar reasons that you mentioned for Legacy. Legacy, you know, they took out Treasure Cruise, but it looks like Dig was close on its heels. Now, coming back though, off of the restricted list, you can play the full 4 copies of Thirst for Knowledge, which is a card that was really popular, but it does feel like, if you know, from what I've seen from Vintage and in the Super League and such, that Vintage seems to have sort of surpassed where Thirst for Knowledge is at. Do you think it's going to have an impact when it comes off?
I think I don't have an opinion on that. Like, I'm sorry, like my knowledge of the format is not good enough for that. Like, it also doesn't look too powerful, so I think it's fine. Like, if I just look at the cards.
Yeah, I know that Rich Shea's going to try to bust that card open. He used to play it quite a bit. And then for tonight, you know, Modern Super League, these changes wouldn't be in effect yet, but interesting to note here, no changes for Modern, nothing. Now, I know that, you know, you play a lot of Modern. I'm assuming it's your favorite format. What do you make of no changes for the Modern format?
Well, overall, I think the format is quite healthy, so there's no desperate need to ban something. But I personally still would have banned Amulet of Vigor or Summerbloom, like one of these cards, and Goryo's Vengeance. Like, there's probably a lot of people who disagree, especially the people who play the decks, obviously. But they just like, I mean, they don't do it constantly, but oftentimes they just like break the rules of Modern, which used to be don't kill before turn 4. And I mean, Summerbloom oftentimes just does that. I mean, obviously you need a good opener for that, like pretty much Summerbloom, Amulet of Vigor, Private Titan, so on and so forth. But it's just like frustrating if you have a lot of these games where you just like die on turn 2 because they play the Private Titan. And I mean, even if you're not technically dead on turn 2, you're in a board position where you can never win from. And the same is kind of true for the Griselbrand deck, because if they just like put in Griselbrand on turn 2, most of the time you just die.
Right, and we've seen that pretty consistently. I am curious to see if, you know, because you mentioned it, the format does feel pretty healthy. Otherwise, you know, I did coverage at a Modern GP a few weeks ago. We had 8 different archetypes, and they were very different archetypes in the top 8. There was, you know, one of each deck. There was no repeats, which is something that you don't see that often in Constructed. And, you know, it does speak to at least the diversity part for Modern, if not the health of the format in general.
Yeah, no, I think I agree. Like, if the format looks healthy, there's no desperate need for bans.
Right. Now, moving to today, we've got a lot going on here for the Super Leagues. We're going to be covering a few matches here to start things off. We're going to be watching Li Shitian fight against Sean McLaren. We're going to talk about that in just a couple of minutes. And you can take a look at our graphic here with the bracket on it. Now, a whole lot of matches have happened. You can see the whole top part and the bottom part, and it's come down to just a few left before we get our champion. Now, you can see down on the bottom part of the bracket, that's where we're going to start with Li Shitian and Sean McLaren. You and I are going to be commentating that match first up, so that's going to be in just a few moments. We'll have that. And then on the other side of the bracket, you can see Cedric Phillips is battling some guy named Patrick Dickmann. That's you. And you're going to have to face off against Cedric and his Zoo deck here to try to put yourself into the next. Now, I want to be clear here. So there's qualifiers at stake today, but you and Cedric are actually already qualified. Now, what are you qualified for? You're qualified for the Super League Championship. And we are going to fill in that last seat here from the Modern Super League. Let's take a look at how this looks from a bigger picture perspective. Going way back to the Vintage Super League Season 3, we had Randy, Eric, and Chris Pakula are all qualified. So they're in to the Super League Championship. Coming out of the Standard Super League, it was Paul Rachel, Josh Utter-Layton, Gabby Sparts, and Paul Cheon who claimed their seats in the championship, and now we're filling out the rest. Now, 2 of those TBDs have been determined, and like I said, that's Patrick Dickmann and Cedric Phillips. So those seats are taken, but there's still one up for grabs, and the winner of the first match that we watched between Li Shitian and Sean McLaren is going to nab it. Now, you also saw down there, this gets kind of interesting, that there was 2 more slots. One last chance qualifier down in the lower right and another one down on the lower left. And there's going to be a last chance qualifier tournament on October 20th. Now, there's going to be a couple of weeks off after this because the Pro Tour is happening and it's pretty tough to get stuff together. You know, Randy's out doing coverage and a lot of the players are busy testing for the Pro Tour. But once the Super League comes back, it will be on October 20th where we're going to start things off working our way up towards the Super League Championship, and that is going to include getting those last chance qualifier seats in. Now, one really cool thing is there are actually seats available in the last chance qualifier still from some players that we saw a little bit of back in the Vintage and Standard and even some of them here in the Modern that are going to be voted in by you. The Super League fan is going to get a chance to vote in your favorite players, and I got a chance to get a little sneak peek at the names on the list, and there's some really great names on there. I saw Willie Adel, Kenji Egashira's on there, Dave Williams, Kai Bude, one of the best players ever. I'm sure you have. Do you know Kai, Patrick? Just being from Germany, or are you too far apart on the generational gap for Magic to know him?
No, I know him, and he also he used to live in Cologne, where I live right now. So this is also where he started playing Magic, I believe. I mean, by now he moved to Hamburg, but no, I know him.
Okay, so you have a chance to vote for him. What's going to happen is there's going to be an article that Randy's going to write. That'll go up, and you'll have a chance to take a look at each of the players, and you get to vote them in. Now, that doesn't put them into the championship, but it puts them in the tournament that's going to qualify them potentially for one of 2 seats to get into the championship. So that's something to look forward to. You know, if some of your favorite players didn't quite make the cut, you can still vote them in and throw them in the ring and see if they can battle it out and claim their seat in the Super League Championship, which is coming out. Now, the other thing I want to mention here before we get into the details of the matchup we're actually going to watch here is the prizes. There are prizes for winning the Modern Super League. There's actually quite a bit on the line here. For first place, you get a foil set of Modern Masters 2015 on Magic Online. That's a full set, all cards in premium foil. If you get second place here, you're going to get a full regular set of Modern Masters 2015. And third place, of course, is going to get that invite to the Super League Championship. Now, all 3 players will also be will grab invites for that. So quite a bit on the line here, Patrick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Bad. And also, it's like a privilege to say that you won the first Modern Super League.
Oh yeah, I know. That's what you got your eyes on, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew what you'd like. All right, let's start taking a look at what is going to be our first match. Li Shijian versus SHAUN MCLAREN. Now, this gets really interesting, Patrick. Li is playing elves. You can take a look at his modern elves list here, but it's really crazy. He's played this same type of deck. This will be the 4th time in a row. He's played this black-green versions of, you know, Jund or Abzan in Modern 4 times. This will be his 4th time in a row. Now, he actually beat SHAUN in his first match. Excuse me, SHAUN beat him in the first match, but then Li won 2 consecutive matches against Reduke and Willie Adel and knocked them out, and now he finds himself back in the matchup here. What happens in this matchup between these black-green based decks and the Elves deck, Patrick?
Well, I think the matchup is like much different, like depending on whether you're playing against like straight black-green, Junk, and Jund.
Okay.
And the later, like Jund, is much better set up against elves than the other 2 because you have Lightning Bolt. Mm-hmm. And usually what elves do is obviously flood the board and like ramp out everything so fast that like the black-green decks just can't keep up. And also with Collected Company, you might even win the value game. But Jund is a little different because they have Lightning Bolt, and that way they can kill key creatures and apply pressure faster because they drop a Tarmogoyf and everything. So this is definitely like much harder than his previous matches, and which is like it makes some sense that he lost the first match. I'm not saying that he like does not have a shot, but Jund has a like better shot against elves than the other 2 than the other 2, which had a pretty tough matchup.
Okay, well, let's take a look at SHAUN MCLAREN's list as well, so we can get an idea for what you're talking about here. So, what are the cards that stand out to you for McLaren's list that give him the edge against the Elves player?
Well, it's mostly the Lightning Bolts, really. Like, I mean, the deck's not much different than like black-green. I mean, if you take a look at it, it's pretty much like Terminate, Kolaghan's Command, and Lightning Bolt being the red cards. Also, Olivia and Grim Lavamancer thrown in there. But yeah, Lightning Bolt is pretty much the key card because that way, like you can have openers where you like really trade resources fast and then take over the game with your effective threats like Tarmogoyf, Liliana, and also Dark Confident to reload. Like if you can keep the board clear and don't take much damage, Dark Confident will obviously draw you in much more removal spells. While in last week's episode, which I actually watched, I wasn't sleeping. Really took so much damage off of the early aggression that he like had to jump block with Dark Confidence, like he couldn't keep them on the board. And